Hey, this is WTii and I'm going to be posting this video as a response to my previous video that I recently uploaded, which was my Diablo Inferno solo video with the Demon Hunter. Now, very shortly after that, or rather today, Demon Hunter got nerfed, and it was a very harsh nerf. It was a nerf to Smokescreen. Now that's going to essentially change everything. I'm not sure if this fight can be done now, and I assume that it can't because Blizzard don't really want people to kill Inferno Diablo within the first week of their game. I might give it a go at some point, but I'm busy. I'm trying to level up other characters so I can get class skills and tutorial videos for them if I can. It's going to take a while to build it all up because the game's only just started. I don't have level 60 characters all round to just sort of play around with builds and that. But when I do get around to that point, I'd love to just sort of pump out videos. But for the time being, I'm going to be working on that. But I wanted to post this video because people were asking for my skills and, you know, and my gear. So I intended to post that, or rather include that in the video, but once I killed Diablo I was kind of overwhelmed by the moment that I forgot to do that bit. I intended to do it at the end, but I forgot. So that was annoying. So this is the gear that I was using at the time. I haven't changed it. And essentially it comprises of dexterity, attack speed, and plus discipline. These were the three things that won me that fight. So we're going to go over it really. It all comes down to what you can afford, and some of this gear isn't ideal. This is by no means the perfect gear setup when it comes to stats. I just simply bought whatever I could that would give me dexterity and attack speed wherever possible. So rings you get attack speed, gloves you get attack speed, and somewhere else you might get attack speed. Yes, your amulet, that's it. And anywhere else you want to get movement speed also for your boots, don't forget that. And you can get attack speed on your rare quiver, or even your dual one hands. But that was the bow that I was using. It was very handy, so it's not a bad bow at all. And that's essentially the gear aspect. Now vitality is, in this fight particularly, useless. Utterly useless. I don't know if that's changed now because of this nerf, but this is a post in regards to the video that I uploaded at the time when I was doing it, how the situation was, and vitality was utterly useless to me because I would get one shot by any ability that Diablo used. So what's the point in vitality if you still get one shot? Now I would have to stack a ridiculous amount of it to probably not get one shot. So it wasn't worth my time, to be honest. And I proved that because I did it without very much vitality at all. If anything, I'd have even less vitality if I could help it and afford it. But we'll go over the details here. There's not really too much to cover in this bit. Like I say, dexterity, attack speed, plus discipline if you can. It's not an absolute must, but it really helps discipline on this fight. And movement speed. Those are the crucial things you need. Now, as for skills, I rolled out with this Hungering Arrow and Puncturing Arrow. Now I loved this from day one, and the reason why is because it has the chance of hitting the boss again, or the mob again, and it's also a great way to keep aggro, as it were, with your target. Keep them on you, essentially, you know, keep them attacked at all times, because even if you miss with Hungering Arrow, there's a chance that it will pierce, and when it pierces it will go back and hit the nearest mob, aka Diablo. But the easiest way to keep on target and hit with it was for me, because a lot of the times I was deliberately trying to fight Diablo, going around the circles of the map, trying to keep my distance, and I couldn't see him on my screen, but you can see him on the minimap. Minimap is crucial here. So say for example he's in the northeast, the top right, I know he's up there, but I can't see him. You can see by your minimap, your little arrow's facing this way. So as long as Diablo is around here, and you're firing, those arrows are going to connect. Another easy way to tell they're connected is, especially if you've got marks for death on them, and you generate extra rage, whenever you hit the target, you will see your hatred go up in little chunks instead of it going up smoothly, or go up in chunk, so you know you're connecting with your target. So that's the choice that I had for Hungering Arrow. You could use Entangler's Shot. It does slow him down, but it's only really useful for when he charges you, and that's why I chose Evasive Fire, which I'll cover over in a moment. So that I didn't take Entangler's Shot for that reason. Bowler Shot is alright, you can have that, and I wouldn't suggest Grenades, but Hungering Arrow for me was a must. Now Impale with Chemical Burn seems to do the most damage. Some people might use Grievous Wounds as if they got a lot of crits, but otherwise for me the choice was obvious. It was Impale with Chemical Burn, because it's essentially 375% weapon damage, which is a lot, and the ability to Impale means that you can keep moving. Move, move, attack, attack, move. Now you can't really do this so comfortably and easily with Chakram or Rapid Fire or even Elemental Arrow. You can do it with Chakram and Elemental Arrow, but I feel that Impale is the best skill for on the move, and it does solid damage. So that's why I chose that. Now going on to Preparation and Focused Mind, this was the key. This is great if you've got 30 Discipline especially, because as long as you're not maxed out on Discipline whilst this is activated, you will get 45 Discipline instead of your typical 30 Discipline if you just used any of the other abilities, which it restores all Discipline. So really, I mean, I could have rolled with Install, you know, this one, instantly restore all Discipline, because I've got almost 45 anyway, but I just loved Focused Mind so much that I still had to go for that. But you have to use it preemptively. You have to sort of know, keep an eye on your Discipline, know that you're going to be running out within like the next 5 to 10 seconds, and then activate it. Or for phase 2, which I'll cover as well. In fact, I can cover that now because I'm covering Preparation. So during phase 2, before the T, I think, on Phantasm or something like that, I can't remember because I haven't got it up on my screen at the moment, but there's 2 bits, 66% roughly and 33%, where a shadow Diablo will disappear off the map, so you need to keep an eye out for that, and then activate your smoke screen during this bit, which I'll get onto as well. And as soon as you've activated your smoke screen, you basically activate Preparation, and you're going to continuously use smoke screen from that point. So you should have as much use for that Discipline as possible. But what I was saying essentially is that it's utterly useful, utterly useful Preparation Focused Mind, because it just gives you a solid amount of Preparation Discipline back. So moving on to smoke screen, is this is the one that got nerfed, and now it's got a 4-second cooldown instead of a 3-second cooldown, so this completely and utterly changes the fight. I'm not even sure if Diablo can be soloed anymore because of this change. I'll have to look into it, but it looks a little bit unlikely now, because this was key for several reasons: smoke screen and lingering fog. The idea is that it would keep you invincible for 3 seconds, and that you could chain it, so as soon as you watch it time out and end, you activate it again. Now this is where the Preparation came in. After using it a couple of times, or maybe even a few times if you need to in a row, you're going to be pretty low on Discipline. In fact, you're going to have almost nothing. So you pretty much use it after the first one or the second one, you use Preparation. That keeps your Discipline ticking up, so you can continue to chain smokescreen. That's why Preparation with Focused Mind was so good, and I loved that so much. Now, smokescreen was crucial for phase 2, and at 66% and 33%, the clones spawn, and they will one-shot you. So you needed to, as soon as it spawned, you needed to activate smokescreen, and then use Marked for Death on your target, so they take extra damage and you generate extra damage, and you just basically burn them down within 2 smokescreens. If you have a ridiculous amount of damage, you might be able to do it within 1, but it seems unlikely. But now with the nerf, you're going to be vulnerable for a second, and that 1 second is all that counts. Is your ad. As soon as you're out of invincibility, boom, he hits you, you're dead. So I'm not exactly sure how that phase is going to go down. I haven't really practiced around with it since, but yeah, that's pretty bad. But that's what I used at the time, and that's what worked for me. Now, Evasive Fire, this was really key to me to getting through this fight, because it only costs 4 Discipline, and it does the same job as smokescreen, providing you use it correctly in certain scenarios. So you're saving yourself 10 discipline, which is so crucial in this fight, because discipline counts. Every little bit of it counts. So I used Displace, which gave me the most distance from the boss, so that way I could get out of any OSHIT moments. Now the problem with Evasive Fire is you needed to always be on the ball. During this fight, it's more crucial that you keep yourself in a smart position than it is that you pull out that little extra damage, those couple of extra arrows that'll do damage. But if you do that and then you back yourself into a corner, what's going to happen when he charges me? I get out of it, I use, you know, Evasive Fire, but what happens is I backflip into this pit, and then I just get hit again and I'm dead. So say for example he's charging me, both scenarios he's charging me from this angle. I use it here. If I'm standing here, I'm dead. However, if I'm just keeping sort of on top of it and always making sure that I'm facing, like behind me, there's always room to backspace, to backstep with Evasive Fire. So if he's coming at me from here, you can shoot down there, shoot there. He's a big target, it will connect, but you've got to remember you're going to backflip directly where you're facing. So if you do it like that, you're still going to end up here, which might leave you vulnerable. But if you do it like this, you're going to end up here, so you've got more room to move up. So that was, for me, Evasive Fire was crucial. But you needed to be on the ball, you need to be ready to use smokescreen for if he teleported to you, or if a single fireball was coming up at you and it was going to explode into a large AoE radius, you needed to use that to get away. Evasive Fire wouldn't cut it. You could use Evasive Fire a couple of times when he teleported, but he essentially attacks you instantly, so it's a big risk. So Evasive Fire was mainly for whenever he charged you. It saved you 10 discipline every time. Why use discipline, or smokescreen rather, when you can use Evasive Fire if they both get you out of that situation? So that was my choice for Evasive Fire. And last but not least, on Marked for Death. I'll go over the passive skills in a moment, but they're very straightforward. Marked for Death, absolutely, utterly crucial. You only have to basically apply it once every 30 seconds, but you might want to do it more often than that, because you might have scenarios where, for example, 28 seconds in, you do need to mark him again, because if you're keeping your maximum distance from him, you have to get fairly up close. He needs to be about this close before you can use your Marked for Death. And if you're keeping a large distance from him and 20 seconds have gone past and you haven't put Marked for Death on him again since during the fight, whenever you possibly can, you're missing out on extra damage. So whenever you can apply it and you know that a good amount of time has passed, then use Marked for Death. Because with the Mortal Enemy rune, this essentially increases the amount of hatred that you're going to have every time you hit your target. This was also a very easy way to tell that you were hitting your target, because once again, like I say, when your hatred was rock bottom and you were using your generating ability, hatred generating ability, Hungering Arrow, with Marked for Death on your target, your hatred would go up in huge chunks. So you could really tell that you were connecting with your target. So that was, for me, crucial. Absolutely crucial. It's a no-brainer really, Marked for Death, Mortal Enemy. But some people might run with different builds, and it worked. I've seen other people do Diablo with different builds, apparently. So I don't know if any of them work now, like I say, but this is covering just what happened back in the day, like a day or so ago. Now, Tactical Advantage for my first passive skill. This applies to Smokescreen, which I have, and Evasive Fire, which I have, so this covers 2 of my abilities. It's very useful. 60% movement speed. Now, that for 2 seconds was brilliant, because there's so many moments in this fight where you suddenly have Diablo right in front of you, and you need to get your distance from him. And what a better way to do it when you can speed away like that in an instant, rather than slowly walk away and then he still catches up with you again. So really, for me, that was a no-brainer, Tactical Advantage. Steady Aim is a flat-out DPS improvement. You have to get this. There's not really any situations in this fight, apart from when Diablo charges you and is teleporting to you, where this won't be useful. Because otherwise, all other times you're going to be more than 10 yards away from Diablo or the Shadow Clone that spawns in Phase 2. So that's a flat-out DPS boost. Always get that. And Archery is exactly the same sort of thing. It's just flat-out damage boost, except there's no negative connotations to it. If you're closer to your target, you still get that extra damage. So that's a no-brainer as well. Now, a couple of other tips that I might cover whilst I can remember them is we've got the gear down, covered that, what was going on with that. We've covered up the skills, which I used, why I used them, and I would say there's a couple of little things. Is this gap here, if you watch my cursor, hopefully I can see the cursor on the frap screen, I really hope I can, otherwise that makes it tricky, but if you can't, it's basically the glowing angel thing on the top right. It looks like an angel sort of wing, and that whole area is like a giant gap. So if you're fighting Diablo directly to the right and he does an AoE fireball, where the fireballs go off all at once in all different directions of the screen, you will not get hit by it if he's directly to the right of you and you're standing here. It's all about positioning, remember, because when it hits this gap, the fireball stops. This, however, doesn't work for his single target fireball, which is really fast, comes straight at you, and if you're even near it, it will go off and increase in size, and if you get caught by it and you don't use smoke screen in time, you will die. Now that's that covered. The other thing I was going to say, whilst I can remember, and I'm going to get to the video, and there's bound to be something that I've forgotten, I'm going to go, oh, but anyway, I'll try to cover as much as I can whilst I remember it, is he can apply dots if he gets into melee range and he hits you. If he hits you, obviously, you die, but that's not the case when you use smokescreen. He still contacts you, and you might apply the dot, but you're sort of invincible, at least until it runs out. Now, this isn't a problem when you've got the marked for hatred ability that he does. I can't remember them all. It's not easy to get access to them all. I couldn't find a website that seemed to have straight up information on the boss abilities, but essentially one of the abilities he does isn't a threat, because if anything, it's a buff. When he sometimes hits you, he applies this sort of debuff, as it were, to you that sort of increases the amount of damage he does to you, but if he hits you anyway, you're dead, and it also increases the amount of damage you do to him. So if anything, it's a good thing to get hit by it, but it's not really an easy thing to do. You don't really want to go and try and do it deliberately, because it's a very big risk. Now, the other two main things to keep an eye on is a little green debuff above your head that looks like a kind of poison cloud. If you've got this on you, you would need to chain smokescreen. Now, if you remember what I was talking about, is chain smokescreen. This is before the nerf, so now this might not happen, and you might be impossible to do Diablo, but at the time, you use smokescreen, wait for it to run out, and then use it straight again. So if you do have a damage over time ability that's lasting for like 12 or 9 seconds or whatever, it's not going to kill you if you can chain smokescreen with preparation a few times in a row, just to get out of that scenario, and you just keep chaining smokescreen until the dot goes away. And the other dot was basically this pulsating red circle underneath you, which would have a similar effect. It would just drain your health very quickly, and you would have to keep using smokescreen, but don't spam it. Again, this doesn't really matter now because it's the nerf, but at the time the idea wasn't to spam it, it was to use it the split second it ended, and then use it again. So that got you out of those two scenarios. Now, there's probably other things, but the main thing I would say is this helps out a lot of people. Okay, it's a really, if you can do this, it's all down to what times you're able to play the game. But the reason I did Diablo, one of the main reasons, I was attempting in the night before, but it's lag. Now, everyone has this in Diablo 3. It's a big issue. I don't know what Blizzard are essentially going to do to fix it, but you can't do boss fights or such with lag. You can if you're very lucky, but it's very difficult and not really worth the effort because it causes a lot of stress. So the way I combated that is, instead of doing it in peak times, which I was trying to do, and getting stressed because I was using abilities and they weren't working properly, they weren't reacting quick enough. As you can see, look at my latency, that's terrible. I wouldn't want to do this boss fight without latency. Is I did it in the morning. If you look at the time, or rather early afternoon, essentially when very few people are online. The time was at the top right, it was something like 20 to 1 in the afternoon. Now this meant that I only had about 36 to up to about 100 ms. And that made the world of difference. So this applies to any big difficult fight that you want to do, that you can only do if you don't have lag, is you simply do it off peak time when no one is online. Pretty straightforward, but a lot of people might overlook that. And like I say, they waste the time sort of trying to do it in an off-peak, in a peak time where everyone's online, it's all lagging, you're just wasting countless hours getting stressed. Don't. Just leave it for a while. Wait until no one else is online or it's quiet and the MS is down to minimal. Because at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any lag. There should be a single player option where you're not online. But we don't have that luxury nowadays, for some reason. A luxury that we've had since forever. But that was that. I don't use potions because everything one-shots you in this fight, and a lot of the potions never worked because if you had the debuff on you, you also had this little red flaming thing above you. There's several things he does that doesn't necessarily kill you, but it's like little debuffs. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get one shot. That's the reason why I don't use health potions or the globes or anything like that. If I go over them, fair enough. But yes. That's that pretty much. I think I've done gear, I've done the skills that I used, I've covered a few tips and tricks. Did I cover phase 2 where I said about chaining the smoke screen and using preparation to kill your clone and then running off, and as Diablo teleports on you again, you simply use smoke screen again and run away, and then you're back to sort of normal up until the next time that the clone comes out. Now, the easiest part of this phase, I would suggest, is probably when he summons these little cages from underneath the ground. Because that's the only time where he actually stops. You know, stops moving, which is brilliant. Because that's your time to save your discipline, regenerate your discipline. Make sure you take your time to concentrate on those cages. Don't worry about getting those few extra shots off. It's not absolutely crucial. Just make sure you avoid the cages, get whatever hits you can. And during this time, you are regenerating discipline for free because you're not under pressure. He's not going to teleport to you or not going to charge you whilst he's summoning those cages. Now, the other thing I did is generally for me, I don't know if this is an official rule or how it worked, but as I got behind those cages, I kept Diablo and myself sort of like a large distance and the cages in between us, and that seemed to stop him. He can charge through them, I've seen him do it, but for whatever reason, he did it less. So I made sure that the cages were between us. So he does his cages, he does his single fireball, which you need to move instantly. You just basically want to have the sound up is another tip I would give, because you can hear him shouting or going "Roar" or whatever, certain abilities. And as soon as you hear that, because you can't see him a lot of the time because you're fighting him off the screen, you hear it, and then that's when you need to react. So whenever he charged at you, you would use evasive fire, which you can spam, and as you can see, it's not taking anything out of my discipline. It only takes out of the discipline when you connect, but it's only 4 discipline, so it goes up within the, you don't even notice it. So as soon as he charges, you use evasive fire. If he does AoE fireballs, preferably you're standing around here so you can use the gap. If not, just run back and keep your distance. But bear in mind that even if it looks like, if they're quite close to you and it looks like you're going to avoid them, you'll probably still get hit, because for some reason in this game a lot of the abilities have larger impacts than they actually look like on the animation. So you really want to be a long distance away from them, otherwise just use smoke screen to get out of it. What other abilities does he use? He uses his teleport, so generally you're going to use smoke screen straight away, or if you have the chance, evasive fire to get yourself out of the situation, providing you can backflip to a safe position. In the last phase, again, he does a sort of shout, as it were, and then he spams out lightning breath. Now, you can tell when he's going to do this, because he sort of slows down a little bit and then goes rawr. So you just whack on your smoke screen, so you move fast and definitely don't get hit by it. And there's other little meteors that come down. I never really suffered from getting hit by them, but I was always paranoid about it. So just keep an eye out, because when you're spamming off fireballs and arrows and stuff and you're concentrating on your hatred, it's easy to forget stuff that's happening on the screen. Just, you've got to have eyes everywhere, so just make sure that you're ready to press smoke screen in case one of those meteors hit you. But I'm not even sure if they can, because I don't remember ever getting hit by one anyway. And I think that's it. I'm sorry if this dragged on a little bit, but I wanted to basically cover that video properly. Now, I know everything's changed and a lot of this isn't going to be so useful now, but for those that wanted to understand how I did it and why I did it, I hope this video helps you. And I also hope that I haven't missed anything else out, because I'm about to end this now. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helps. So please subscribe, like and comment. This has been WTii.